for the slaughter of human beings because you're pro-choice. And I'm standing here in where
strong word.
a fetus cannot.
You said killing a fetus, so it's not a strong word.
It's really not. But could I just finish my statement?
I know Kai is biting the bars. I think this is going to be yet another instance where I lose my motherfucking mind. Jubilee's done did it again.
Step forward if you agree with the prompt. I have had unprotected sex.
Okay, those two have not had sex. Okay, those are the pro-lifers.
So I see we all been getting it on. About that.
The first time that I had sex, I didn't have the knowledge that I should have. I think just I didn't know what Plan B was until I started having sex. That just maybe I missed that day in class, but that was not taught in sex ed. So I didn't know what Plan B was until I started having sex.
I'm gonna take Kai out.
But now I'm a lot
I'll be back
more
in a
educated,
second.
a lot more comfortable. I'm on birth control. But obviously, birth control isn't always effective, isn't always accessible. So I understand my privilege in that.
Well, the first time that I had unprotected sex was a couple months ago with my fiance. We're both adults, and we were in a real period of grief because I had just had a miscarriage, I think about a month before, after we'd had protected sex.
The first time that I had unprotected sex was unprotected sex was with the person that I am currently married to. We got married straight out of high school. I was 18. It was a week after I graduated. And we're really happy together. And we love the idea of having a child, currently pregnant right now.
Heck
Second trimester. That's, so clearly I had unprotected sex to get here.
Are you going to college, or do you have a job? How's that working?
So I mainly do activism. I try to advocate for people who are in the same position as the person inside of me right now. And I think that the value of their life is intrinsic to every fetus. So honestly, right now, I'm just chilling as an activist.
But do you make money?
Sometimes, if my followers give me some.
Sick.
Depends. When you were having unprotected sex, would you say that you would have been financially stable enough to have a child?
No.
No? Would you say you would have been emotionally ready enough to have a child?
No.
Okay. All right, then.
I think I was in kind of a similar situation to you. Not so much because I was pressured by a partner or anything like that, but because the sex ed courses that we had, like yours was lacking, were very lacking in terms of queer sexual education. And the sex I was having, I thought I didn't need any kind of protection for it because I was sleeping with people who couldn't get me pregnant.
The first time I've ever had unprotected sex, I was young enough to not know what sex even was. So I was very much manipulated and groomed by someone in my life to think that what I was doing was okay and normal. And that scared me because, when I finally told my parents, it wasn't a really good conversation where they were of course they were shocked because that person is in our family. And they were like, that isn't real, you're just trying to get it for attention kind of thing. And then, but in a sense I knew that they believed me because we went to some dingy ass Walmart and bought a pregnancy test because they were like, if you are pregnant, you can't tell anyone that it's his. You have to say that we adopted another child and you would have to keep that baby. I did not want to have a baby at a very young age. I was not emotionally ready, I was not financially ready. I was still in school trying to think I have a future for myself that I want to do, Fortunately, I was not pregnant.
Do you think that people can't achieve bright futures when they have children?
They can achieve bright futures if they have a child. I just knew that I wouldn't have been able to achieve that future.
Well, there are resources available, particularly for people who are student parents, for people.
I like that they just straight up say anti-abortion, by the way. That's a big mark for Jubilee. I mean, big points for Jubilee. Instead of saying like pro-life, they just straight up say anti-abortion.
Or on-campus parents who have children, babies, toddlers, children of all ages. There are also resources in terms of crisis pregnancy centers, also known as pregnancy help centers. There's thousands of them across the U.S. There's 5 crisis pregnancy centers for every Planned Parenthood. And so I think that a lot of these resources are not made known. I think that a lot of people kind of get into the situation of being pregnant and nobody's telling them about these resources, and then they think that they can't do it, and then they get an abortion that they might not have actually wanted. They felt like they had to.
Do you feel like that was your situation? Do you feel like you didn't want to have an abortion, like if it happened?
I think that because I grew up in a very conservative home, so abortion wasn't even in the picture. I wasn't even allowed to have that idea. And like thinking of it now, like, yeah, there are crisis centers, but we're also going through like baby formula shortage. Like there's not even paid parental leave. So if we're going to be able to bring a child into this world, I think we should fight for more health care that is free for women or people who can give birth. And especially since I was at a very young age, I honestly just didn't know what I would do in that situation.
For me, when I started engaging in intercourse, I started out using protection. I've been volunteering with Planned Parenthood since I was about 15. When I was a junior in high school, I've had an intense passion for reproductive rights. So I immediately, as soon as I knew that that resource was accessible to me, I put myself on birth control. But unfortunately, birth control isn't the end-all be-all. And from putting myself on several forms of birth control, I realized that the adverse effects of birth control can be very, very altering. And currently, I'm in a very long-term committed relationship with my boyfriend. And of course, when you have someone attractive, you want to have sex with them. And he's the first person I've really started participating in unprotected sex with.
All right, can the disagreeer step forward?
I've not had sex yet, and that's just because
Called it.
of my religious ethical code and moral code. I'm a Catholic. I've been raised in a Christian household, and
Fucking
I just don't
called
see that as
it,
something
dude.
that's beneficial or valuable to my life at this point. There's been times when I've questioned if I was ready and
Also, Braden is a classic. Classic. All the HasanAbi heads know Braden is such a classic name for the next gen. Oh shit, she back at it. She's back at it again. Come on, Kaya. Good job, Kaya. Get in there. Puzzle.
question my faith, but I've always just kind of found my way back to the church and agreeing with the church's teachings. So I've never really had a desire, and I was in foster care as a child, and so I witnessed a lot of sexual violence there, and it's just been one of those things I almost feel like just subconsciously I've never really wanted. So I really don't see myself like living in a sexual relationship with another at this time of my life, just because it just isn't really what I feel like is right for me.
Sort of in the same boat. I'm Catholic as well, but I'm not. I haven't had sex before. It's not just because I'm Catholic. It's like there are other reasons as to why I haven't, such as pair bonding, and I think just it helps to keep the marital act within marriage because newsflash, sex makes babies. So I think it's just good for a child to have a mother and father, because when families are sort of separated, it causes a lot of problems for children, especially like with divorce. Now it's like surveys have shown that divorce is often worse than the death of a parent, just because it's just like, at least you know, like when the parent has passed, it's like they didn't leave you behind. So
I have two questions for you. The first one is, where did you get those surveys from?
I don't remember. I was just in passing, but
That's
I don't
fine.
really know.
The second thing I wanted to ask, you said something about sex always making babies. Well, you didn't say always. You said sex makes babies, and I would love to
Did he say-
challenge that a little bit.
Did he say he like in passing conducted surveys? Like, was he implying that he was conducting surveys himself? As in, like, he tried to sneak in information that he got through anecdotes as data? Or does he mean like he heard from other people about these surveys? I love hearing about surveys. They're always telling me about that. They're always telling me about surveys.
It's not the only reason for like sex, because it's like you have the pair bonding and sort of the emotional going on between the two people, but sort of like the telos, the primary purpose of it, sort of is for that. But there's other legitimate sort of secondary reasons.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you would say that the primary purpose of all sex is babies?
Because I wouldn't say all sex, because there's times where you can't conceive because like the woman cycles, so she's not always fertile. But I think it's just the natural order of that act is for having children.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think what they were getting at is to not assume that all sex is heterosexual. So
Yeah, that is a pretty heteronormative view. I completely validate and respect that you don't want to have sex for you. But for those of us who can't even ever, for any reason, get pregnant during sex, I think it's a little reductive to assume that that's like the reason people would do it.
I think there's also a difference between reproductive sex and non-reproductive
Yeah.
sex.
yeah.
Like, let's be so for real. There's so many things you can do to not get pregnant and still have sex with somebody.
I'm obviously not Catholic, but I think that, but I think it's also important to remember that, you know, Catholics and people who do believe that sex should be within marriage also acknowledge that there's types of sex, like oral sex, for example, that you don't conceive children by. So I think maybe not to put words in your mouth, but maybe what Luke is referring to specifically is coitus and not other types of sex.
Yeah, because people can mean different things by sex. It's like,
It's a very general term.
yeah.
Hi, this is Ragini, the director of this episode. Please like this video if you enjoy watching it and subscribe to our channel. Now, let's get back to the video. I have had an abortion.
Damn.
I had mine about a year and a half ago. And I've never felt shame, never felt regret. I've never even second guessed my choice. Surprisingly, my parents are Middle Eastern immigrants, and they were very supportive. The 9 months of pregnancy isn't considered to be a challenge in its own. It's like, oh, you know, you can give the child up for adoption. Oh, there are like resources, there are crisis pregnancy centers. But those 9 months, that's still morning sickness. That's still doctor visits. I had to go to the ER in the very short time that it took me finding out that I was pregnant to getting the actual abortion, because I thought I had an ectopic pregnancy, because that's what my gynecologist told me. There are so many things to consider. I can't go to school if I'm sick, if I'm already, you know, mental health isn't something that's secure for me. And then on the top of that, I'm gonna.
Yes, abortion is normal in the Middle East. And also, I mean, Turkey has a public healthcare system. It's nationalized. There's private elements as well. But for the record, for those of you who don't know, in Turkey, the government technically, Hasan baby. In Turkey, the government is technically paying for abortions. You know what I mean? You can get a free abortion at a government hospital. And Turkey is not exactly known as a beacon of like progressive values. After all, Erdogan recently won, and the first thing he said was that his opponents were all, you know, on the LGBT team, okay? Like that's Turkey. Japan is weirdly anti-abortion. Yeah. I think they have a good reason for that. I mean, not that there's any good reason to like rid women of bodily autonomy, but you know, look at their fucking population, dog. That's LGBT'ciler. That's how Erdogan said it. That's how Erdogan said, you know, that's how he referred to his opposition.
Gonna have to deal with thinking about
LGBT.
this pregnancy. Are people gonna judge me for being a teen mom?
Okay, so I had an abortion fairly recently. I had one about 2 to 3 days before my recent birthday last year in November. It was a very unexpected event. I remember having symptoms almost immediately. I was about 6 weeks, I believe, 5 weeks and 7 days. I actually did not suspect I was pregnant because I had been going through some traumatic life events that threw my cycle off. I'm My period was on average 40 days late, so I just didn't suspect anything when I was 6 days late that past cycle. And my boyfriend, who I was confiding in at the time and telling about my...
For the record, one other conversation piece that gets lost in the sauce regularly in the abortion conversation is this notion that like prehistoric societies or even like everything outside of like contemporary Western societies, select few contemporary Western societies, abortion has always been frowned upon or whatever. That is the furthest from the truth. Benjamin Franklin quite literally had home remedies, concoctions that you could fucking use in his math book, okay, to conduct at-home abortions, okay? The idea that abortion is such a normal process that it quite literally is like older than modern medicine, okay? It was perfectly normal back then. It's still perfectly fucking normal. It's just like the white evangelical Protestants do not consider it to be normal, and they are a very, very active and very important base of voters for the Republican Party. So now we all have to act like this is a real 50-50 issue.
My current bodily circumstances had a feeling beyond me, the woman in this equation who should know what's going on. He was the one that prompted me to
Yeah, Benny Franks was a bit of a fuckboy too. That's probably the reason why he was like on board with that
go
shit.
get a test because he felt that I was pregnant. And when we found out, it was a shock. I'm the type of person when in my relationships, I make very clear my positions on how I am with abortion and pregnancy and child rearing. I'm very transparent in that matter because there should be no room for error in that case, but that's because I'm fortunate enough to be educated in that manner. I'm a volunteer with Planned Parenthood, so I knew the resources available to me, and at that time, when I did conceive, it was not when I was on birth control. And so partially, I take responsibility for the circumstances that led to the conception of that pregnancy. Although I'm very grateful and I'm very appreciative that I had access to this form of healthcare, it was something that I grieved heavily. It was something that my boyfriend grieved heavily. We were not ecstatic to have done this. We were not happy that we had to make this choice. But because of our plans as individuals, as adults, and our life plan is to get married, is to complete school, and to maximize our chances of being the parents that we want to be, I felt it irresponsible to be selfish and say, well, I want a baby and I don't want to make that hard choice to terminate. But when you think of somebody else, and that would have been another individual, you have to think what's best for them if they were to be born. And I'm not in a position to where I could emotionally, financially, nor physically provide for a child. Whereas if I would do the hard thing now, later on down the line, when I improve my circumstances, I can be the mother that I want to be instead of disadvantaging myself and that person who did not ask to be put in that situation.
I commend you for coming in front of like a camera and saying that.
Yeah. My parents don't even know either.
Yeah, mine don't.
Braden and Hansan are organizers for PAAU and stole 115 aborted fetuses and displayed them in a video and kept some at a white lady's house. Wait, Braden and Constance are from that fucking org? That organization is insane, dude. Wait, no shot. That's the organization that they're a part of? The one that like literally where the lady had to go to jail. The lady went to jail. That lady literally went to jail. She stole a bunch of fucking fetuses and like, they stole a bunch of fetuses and then kept them in like, wait, hold up. Yeah, those people are like the most mentally ill, just the most normal abortion, anti-abortion advocates. Hold on, let me look this up. Police say 5 fetuses found in a DC home where the anti-abortion activist is believed to live. What's the... Come on, just tell me what the fucking goddamn organization is. PAAU organized to destroy pro-abortion arguments. Fucking 31 likes. It doesn't even matter that these guys don't have a poppin'. No, they don't. They just get fucking heavily funded, even if they're not popping. Where is it? Oh my god! Oh my god! It is that progressive anti-abortion uprising. Jubilee, what the fuck are you guys doing, man? That's insane. Jubilee put in front of people who have had abortions and just like normal fucking teenagers, in front of them, they put two anti-abortion activists that work for an organization who had someone in their leadership committee get arrested for stealing fetuses. Wait, the tweet says 3? Our organizer, Ayala, Braden, and Constance were invited by Jubilee Media. 3! 3 of them are PAAU.
I don't either. I need to figure out a way to tell them.
Yeah.
I'm just going to block Jubilee from their YouTube.
Oh, it wasn't 15 fetuses, sorry. The abortion group took 115 fetuses from a medical waste truck, but the police only found 5 of those fetuses in this house. That's crazy. I get it. Like, it's probably not that easy to find like normal anti-abortion advocates that aren't like activists for some fucking psychotic freak operation, especially when they're like teenagers. But like, goddamn, dude, 3 out of 4 were literally fucking cursed side quests. Yeah, yo, this is literally a Witcher side quest, dude. That's what they were doing.
I just want to say, first of all, thank you for sharing those experiences with us, because I could hear in your voice, even though I couldn't see your face. It's difficult to share. And I'm so sorry that you had that period of grief and those experiences.
Thank you.
I've miscarried twice. And taking the abortion pill, I know, though it is a different process, it's not dissimilar in the function of it to
You can't be rocking a fucking Star of David and be anti-abortion. Like, that shit doesn't even make sense. You know what I mean? Wait, they called it a rescue? Breaking this morning, PAAU Director of Activism Lauren Handy was arrested and is currently being detained by the FBI in connection with a rescue from 2 years ago in Washington, D.C. We are expecting her to be charged and released by this afternoon. We'll keep you updated. They called stealing 115 fetuses from a medical waste truck as a rescue operation. What the fuck is being rescued? Dude, I'm sorry. These people all need to go to fucking jail.